Good morning. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Hola Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to welcome you at Ukraine Media Center. And today we start our day with the presentation of a unique art practice for psychological recovery and sense making, which is called the Sensory Labyrinth Theater. So let me introduce our speakers. Joining us today are the people who will tell us in deeper detail about the technique that will be working in Ukraine. So joining us in our studio is Iwan Brioc, author of the methodology, founder of the CoArts approach, director of research and practice at the Republic of the Imagination International Network. Also joining us is Yana Salakhova, head of the Theater for Change NGO, Theater of the Oppressed Practitioner, and Palko, co-author of the Sensory Labyrinth activist, Theater of the Oppressed Practitioner. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. So let's talk in deeper detail about the methodology and obviously how they can take advantage of it here in Ukraine. So Ivan, please, the floor is yours. And I would like to ask you about the technique, about the theater. What is it like? What is the foundation of the methodology? How have you come up with it, and how it can be useful for Ukrainians?
Sure. Well, thank you for welcoming me here. It's great to be here. So, context-oriented arts, or CoArts for short, is the name of the methodology. Sensory Labyrinth Theater is one of the methods within it. So what do we mean by context-oriented arts? Most arts are concerned with creating content, information or experiences, or artistic products. But context-oriented arts are about orienting our attention. Arts orient our attention to the context rather than content of our experience. So rather than what's experience, who is experiencing? What is this? Yeah, and it can be explained in 7 words, which is what if, that's the theater aspect of it, what if all there is this.
Хочеться трошки деталі, наскільки я розумію.
We would like to find out a little bit more details for what we understand. The main actor in this theater will be the spectator themselves. Is it correct? And why this approach is so important? Because in Ukraine, we're seeing since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we've been seeing the growth of demand for any cultural and artistic events. And we see that cultural dimension is helping people to survive the war and everything going on around them. So to what extent are people going to experience this approach, this play, and to what extent will the spectator be submerged in the process itself?
So in this method, Sensory Labyrinth Theater, it's an immersive theater. It's a one-to-one, multi-sensory theater. So the audience arrive and they go on a journey. They're travelers through a labyrinth. And in the labyrinth are what we call sensory portals. So these are installations created by the people making the labyrinth here. It's not directed by me, they create them. And each encounter is not, the function of each encounter is not to create more fear or to create more content even. It's actually just to bring ourselves back to ourselves. And why that's important is because when we're in fear, which is natural in a country where you're attacked every day, then it's very difficult to find any personal peace. This is not about creating external peace, it's finding peace in the midst of conflict. I'm from Wales, and in Wales we have 2 words for peace. Heddwch, which means the absence of conflict, and Tang Nevydd, which is the peace of heaven, if you like, which is the kind of peace that you can access whatever the circumstances. Yeah, and this, when I talk about context, which is this awareness, if you want to call it awareness maybe, or consciousness, it's always peaceful here.
Безумовно, хочу розпитати вас
Obviously, I would like to ask you about previous experiences of implementation of this technique. What is the feedback you're getting from the people, and how do they feel after they experience this methodology, this technique? Thank you.
So I first encountered the work of a man called Enrique Vargas from Colombia back in the 90s, which inspired me to create this as a form of community work. And it was a profound effect on me, and I was experimenting, and then it was having a similar effect on audiences, and I went back to study. I went back to university and I studied mindfulness to try and understand what was happening. So it's not in all cases, but in many, many cases, people feel a profound peace and some kind of new connection. You might use the word re-enchantment with life.
Дякую вам, пані Яно. Питання.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yana. Another question to you. So to what extent is this theater going to emerge in Ukraine, and to what extent is it important for Ukrainians, in your opinion? Thank you very much. I've been knowing Iwan since 2014, when he came to support Ukrainians during the Revolution of Dignity, and even back then he already got us familiarized with his technique a little bit, and I've realized that now we all have a lot of challenges. We're all facing a lot of challenges, how to survive this life, how to endure it. And not all of the people have those connections with the community. And what I understand about this theater, that it can reestablish those ties, that you reestablish ties with other people, because I work with the people through participatory theater, and I understand that when you experience any events in group, for example, last year we had a group class with the teenagers, and it happened just after a couple of hours after the shelling of Ahmadit Children's Hospital. So we were talking, we were trying to play, but those human ties, this is what helps the people to better understand themselves, and basically to find the resources to stay together, get together, and to continue resisting the actions of Russian Federation. And we decided that we want to make a public event, a public activity, so people could experience it. It would be our present to Kyiv. I believe that as soon as a person experiences something like that, you start building some new neuron ties and in your brain, and you get a faith that it's possible, and you're going to come back again and again to establish such spaces by yourself. So for me, it's like a small island of safety, where a person can feel that they're safe together with other people, even despite any threat around them. They can find those resources, and Sensory Labyrinth is about the methodology, how to get back to this experience. So as soon as you experience it once, in any other difficult situations, you can come back to this experience again. And I believe that it's like a ripple. It can be transferred on and on. If a person thinks it's possible, they may find other people to share it with. So, Ms. Yana, Ms. Ina, so probably the main question, when and where the Sensory Labyrinth Theater is going to start operating, how can we get there? Well, very soon, basically this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 15th, 16th, and 17th of August, the pavilion number 4 of the National Exhibition Center, 10 to 18 o'clock. The Sensory Labyrinth will be operating for 3 days. The registration is already on. More than 200 people have already signed up. The registration is still open. However, I think that we're about to limit the registration, but basically people may come and get the experience. So in order to get there, we need to sign up. Where can we sign up? You can sign up at the Theater of Changes NGO website. There is also a registration form in Facebook that you can fill. It is also announced at the National Exhibition Center in the announcement sections. But even if you don't make it, you will be lucky to come to the location, and within certain periods you will be able to get there even in a live queue. Ina, you are a co-author of this activity, of this installation. Can you please tell us about its specifics in Ukraine? Maybe in Ukraine it will be different. Well, I'm sure that even Yana may add about the specifics. What I want to say on my behalf as a person who will have the portal in this labyrinth. So we will be waiting for our travelers, both male and female, so they could look for their senses in that labyrinth, because every single one of us brings their own experience to the labyrinth, because the members from all over Ukraine are going to experience the labyrinth, and they've all come with their own experiences, the experiences of war, experiences of establishing safe space so that our travelers feel comfortable, and so that they come out of the labyrinth with their own new understanding. And probably for us, those who create the labyrinth, it may look mysterious, but for those who come, it will make sense. But it will definitely make a different sense for different people. So again, this is an act of submergence into yourself. Maybe you experience some emotions. And a small remark, just a month and a half ago, we had a sensory journey where our travelers had an opportunity to travel with their eyes closed, only relying upon their own feelings. And that was one of the ways to know themselves. That was a small rehearsal, but still we were able to see the way Ukrainians experience it. And after the journey, we were talking to the travelers, and basically all of them, they had different sensations. Some of them were recalling their old emotions, probably even the experience of war, but the others, and they got saddened. However, others were able to reset because they were sensing some emotions with their eyes closed that were inaccessible to them before. So again, everyone will get their own result, and it's definitely worth trying because it's the first time in Ukraine. We're doing it for the first time in Ukraine, and we're investing all of our soul in it, so to say. So you've mentioned your portal. Do I understand it correctly that the labyrinth will be filled with different blocks that will be in line with different kinds of senses and search for senses? Exactly. And we're calling our visitors travelers for a reason, because they will try to find different ways to achieve their own understanding of senses. How long one journey may take? Well, up to 1 hour. Obviously, for every single person, it will be different because people experience emotions in different way. For some, time may stop. For others, it will look like 5 seconds. But according to our watch, it will be about 1 hour. So the people will be walking through the labyrinth, but they will not cross their path, and people will get their own experiences. So for what I understand, this is a 3-day pilot in Ukraine. Are you planning to continue this experience, or maybe use those practices, those results that you will get in the end of those 3-day period? Well, obviously we have such plans, but basically, well, the creators of the portals are the Ukrainian community of the theater of the oppressed practitioners. As I've mentioned, they come from all corners of Ukraine, and for us, this is the experience of creating of the safe space, a space in which a person, like Iwan puts it, if a person comes in with their monsters, they may let go of them in that labyrinth. They may just relax and trust to the space, trust to the people around them. And talking about ourselves, about our experience when we got invitation to join to the theater, from the Theater of Changes, I've thought that, yes, it's really important now that we've been living amidst the war for such a long time. We have this opportunity to reevaluate something, to balance our emotions. This is really necessary for a lot of people now, and it's one of the formats how it can be done in the most sustainable way, taking care about yourselves, about other people. So it's a way to work with the emotions, and obviously such tool will be useful in future because the majority of Ukrainians are wounded by the war, and their mental health needs to be worked with. Thank you very much, dear friends. Do we have any questions on the floor? If so, please let us know. So the main difference, as we talk about the theater, people expect to come and someone will play something for them and they will act as a spectator. So in this case, for what I understand, there will be no actors on the stage playing for us, but those who attend the theater will be the protagonists around whom everything will be going on. Is it correct? Well, basically, we may state that every person has their story, and thanks to those portals, certain story of each person is being activated. The feelings, the senses through this walk, through this journey, they will come together as a theater, because theater is telling the story, and it will be the story of the traveler who has come. And thanks to those portals, they may actualize those things that they need specifically at this moment when they come to us. And those are the things that may support them further on. So the story will be written during the journey. The theater will be unfolding thanks to this journey. Well, as we talk about scaling up, it's important to mention the experience of a person whom we try to submerge into the new practices. Are you going to study it? Are you going to analyze what people experience to maybe scale it up in future? Well, we at least are going to collect feedback from the travelers who ended up in a theater. Maybe there will be people so filled with emotions that they would not like to talk, but a lot of people really want to share their emotions after that experience, and we will documented, because we will definitely want to use those practices in our further work. And the most important that I want to ask you, for those who want to join the theater, what do you wish those people? What would you wish to those who decided to try that experience, this new technique, those who will come to your theater? What do you wish to those people?
What I like, what I try to succeed with, is that at the end, people can't speak. That's the best feedback. And they can't speak because walking through the labyrinth, they start to realize that they're the main character in this play. And it feels very familiar, so familiar. They start to realize this is what my whole life is like. This is all theater. And then that's what creates the piece. Yeah.
Можливо, ви хочете додати?
Would you like to add anything? I would like to say that probably just trust. Just come into this space with the trust into yourself, and trust into the fact that you will be able to find some important answers, just like Iwan is putting it, who I am, what kind of person I am. If they ask themselves that question, probably they will be able to find an answer. Well, and in continuation of Yana's thought, what kind of person would I have been shouldn't I have experienced those difficulties in my life? But every single one of us who prepares the labyrinth, they're preparing their portals, they're trying to find themselves. So yes, trust the space that's prepared for them. So we invite everyone, and we can't wait to see everyone. The only thing I can add is please join the activity. It's definitely worth it. And let me remind you that you can sign up at the webpage of the Theater of Changes NGO. So please join this activity and try this experience. That's really important and interesting. Thank you very much. Good luck. I hope it all happens in the way that you've planned it. Thank you for your great initiative, and we wish you a great weekend and a great premiere of your technique. And we want to thank everyone who joined us, as well as security and defense forces, thanks to whom we can gather here and hold activities like this. Glory to Ukraine.